My bodyguard discovered the one secret that could destroy everything I'd built. A past so dark that if it came out, my career, my reputation, my entire life would crumble. So I offered her money to stay quiet, thinking that would solve the problem. But when she looked at me with those intense eyes and said she didn't want my money, she wanted something far more valuable, I realized I was in deeper trouble than any secret could cause. Before I tell you what she really wanted and how it changed both our lives, let me ask, what city are you watching from? Drop it in the comments below and subscribe to help this channel grow. Your support means everything. My name is Alexandra Pierce, and I'm a corporate lawyer in New York City. I represent Fortune 500 companies, handle billion-dollar deals, and have a reputation for being untouchable. What nobody knows is that 10 years ago, when I was desperate and broke, I was involved in witness intimidation for a criminal organization. I wasn't violent, just delivered messages, but people got hurt because of information I helped suppress. I got out, changed my life completely, but that past haunted me. 3 months ago, someone started leaving notes at my office. Photographs from that time. Names of people I'd helped silence. The message was clear. They knew everything, and they could destroy me whenever they wanted. That's when I hired Marina Volkov. Marina came from a security firm that specialized in high-profile protection. Former Russian intelligence, impeccable record, a presence that made dangerous people reconsider their choices. She was tall, striking, with ice blue eyes that seemed to see through every lie you'd ever told. "Miss Pierce, I've reviewed the threats against you," she said during our first meeting, her slight accent making every word sound deliberate. "But I need complete honesty to protect you effectively. Is there something in your past that someone might use against you?" I should have lied. Should have maintained the carefully constructed facade I'd built over 10 years. But something about her directness, her lack of judgment, made me tell the truth. I told her everything. About the organization, about the messages I delivered, about the witnesses who'd been scared into silence, about the guilt I'd carried for a decade. She listened without expression, taking notes, asking clarifying questions. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "This is worse than standard blackmail. Someone from that organization likely recognized you and wants either revenge or money. Probably both. If this comes out, I'm finished. Not just my career. I could face criminal charges. I understand. That's why you need to trust me completely. I'll find who's threatening you and neutralize the threat." She stood to leave, then paused. "Miss Pierce, everyone has things in their past they're not proud of. What matters is who you are now. From what I've seen, you've built something good from something bad. That takes strength." Her words, simple and without pity, meant more than she knew. For the first time in years, someone knew the worst thing about me and didn't look at me with disgust. Over the following weeks, Marina became a constant presence in my life. She accompanied me everywhere, her vigilance never wavering. We'd spend long hours together in cars, in my apartment, in conference rooms while I worked. Proximity bred familiarity, and I started noticing things about her. The way she drank her coffee black with exactly 2 sugars. How she'd tap her fingers on her thigh when thinking through a problem. That she read Russian poetry during downtime, mouthing the words silently. How her professional mask would slip occasionally, revealing someone warm and surprisingly funny underneath. I found myself looking forward to seeing her each morning, finding excuses to extend conversations beyond security necessity, noticing the way her rare smile transformed her entire face. I told myself it was just gratitude mixed with stress creating artificial intimacy. But I couldn't deny the electricity I felt when she'd steady me with a hand on my lower back, or the way my breath caught when she'd lean close to speak quietly in crowded spaces. 2 months into our arrangement, Marina identified my blackmailer. It was Victor Constantine, someone I'd worked with in the organization who'd been arrested years ago and recently released. He wanted money and revenge, planning to leak everything if I didn't pay. "He's demanding $2 million, Marina told me one evening in my apartment. "He has evidence, documents, even recordings. Enough to destroy you legally and professionally." My hands were shaking. "What do I do?" "You have options. We could pay him, but men like Victor never stop demanding more. We could go to the authorities, but you'd face prosecution. Or we could find leverage against him, make him too afraid to move against you. The third option, make it happen. I'll pay whatever it takes. Marina looked at me seriously. Alexandra, I need to tell you something. I found Victor 3 weeks ago. I've been investigating him, learning everything about his operation, gathering evidence of his current criminal activities. 3 weeks? Why didn't you tell me? Because I needed to be sure. And because once I confirmed he was the threat, I had to make a choice about what to do next. She moved closer. I have enough evidence to put Victor away for 20 years. I could go to the authorities right now, and he'd never bother you again. Relief flooded through me. Then do it, please. There's a complication. The evidence I gathered, I obtained it illegally. If I turn it over to authorities, I implicate myself. I could lose my license, possibly face charges. It would destroy my career. The relief turned to cold dread. Marina, I can't ask you to do that. You're not asking. I'm offering. She took my hands. Alexandra, I've spent 2 months getting to know you. Yes, you made mistakes a decade ago. But I've watched you work, seen how you treat people, witnessed the good you do now. You volunteer at legal aid clinics. You mentor young lawyers. You're not the person you were then. That doesn't erase what I did. No. But it means you deserve a chance to keep building the life you've created. I can give you that chance. I pulled my hands away, standing up and moving to the window. Why would you risk everything for me? We barely know each other. Because somewhere between learning your darkest secret and now, I stopped seeing you as just a client. Her voice was soft behind me. Alexandra, I care about you. More than I should, more than is professional, but I can't help it. I turned to face her. You care about me? I'm in love with you. She said it simply, like stating a fact. I didn't plan it. I tried to fight it, but I am. And I can't watch your life be destroyed when I have the power to prevent it. My heart was racing. Marina, I'll pay you. Whatever you want. 5 million, 10 million. I'll find the money somehow. Something flickered across her face. Hurt, maybe. You think this is about money? You'd be giving up your career. You deserve compensation. I don't want your money, Alexandra. I want you to understand that some things matter more than careers or money. I want you to stop running from your past and start living for your future. And selfishly, I want that future to include me. I stared at her, processing this impossible situation. My bodyguard, who knew my darkest secret, was willing to sacrifice her career not for money but because she loved me. I don't know what to say. Say you'll let me do this. Say that, after it's done, you'll give us a chance. Not because you owe me, but because maybe you feel something too. Did I feel something? I'd been lying to myself for weeks, pretending the way my pulse raced around her was just stress. That looking forward to seeing her was just routine. That noticing every detail about her was just hyper-awareness. But standing there, looking at her offering to sacrifice everything for me, I couldn't lie anymore. I do feel something, I admitted. I've been terrified to acknowledge it because you work for me. Because the power dynamic is wrong. Because my life is already complicated enough, but, Marina, yes. I have feelings for you. She crossed the distance between us in 2 strides, cupping my face gently. Then let me do this. Let me protect you, really protect you, one last time. Then we can figure out what we are to each other without this threat hanging over you. If you turn in that evidence and implicate yourself, I lose you anyway. Not necessarily. I have leverage too. The evidence I gathered, I can make a deal. Immunity for testimony. I help put Victor away. I walk clean. She smiled slightly. I'm very good at negotiation. This is insane. Probably. But loving someone often is. She leaned her forehead against mine. Trust me, Alexandra. Trust that I know what I'm doing, and trust that what I feel for you is worth this risk. I did something I've been wanting to do for weeks. I closed the final distance and kissed her. She made a small sound of surprise that turned into something warmer, her arms coming around me, pulling me closer. The kiss was tender and desperate at once, months of suppressed feelings finally finding expression. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, she smiled. I'm taking that as a yes. It's a yes. To all of it. Do what you need to do, and then we'll figure this out together. The next 2 weeks were tense. Marina worked with the FBI, cutting a deal for immunity in exchange for her evidence and testimony against Victor. It was complicated, required lawyers and negotiations, but she'd been right about her leverage. The Bureau wanted Victor badly enough to overlook how she'd obtained the evidence. During that time, Marina and I existed in a strange limbo. She was still technically my bodyguard, still maintaining professional boundaries in public. But in private moments, the walls between us had come down completely. We'd talk for hours about everything except the case. She told me about growing up in Moscow, about joining intelligence service young, about the things she'd seen that made her leave Russia entirely. I told her about my family, about law school, about the ambitions that had led me to make terrible choices when I was desperate. Do you regret it? She asked one night as we sat together on my couch, her arm around me. The choices you made back then? Every day. But Marina, I also recognize that those choices taught me who I don't want to be. They made me careful about the cases I take, conscious of the power I wield, determined to use my skills for good when I can. That's growth. That's redemption, even if you don't want to call it that. She kissed the top of my head. Alexandra, you're not defined by your worst moment. You're defined by every choice you've made since. 2 weeks after she approached the FBI, Victor was arrested. The evidence Marina provided, combined with her testimony, was overwhelming. He'd been running multiple criminal operations, and the charges would put him away for decades. My involvement was mentioned in the case but classified, protected by the deal Marina had negotiated. I was free. The secret that had haunted me for 10 years, that had nearly destroyed everything, was neutralized. And I hadn't lost Marina in the process. The day after Victor's arrest, Marina came to my apartment. Not in her professional capacity anymore, just as herself. It's done. Victor's locked up, your past is protected, and I still have my license. Turns out the Bureau appreciates people who help them put away major criminals. You did it. You actually did it. We did it. You trusted me, which couldn't have been easy. She moved closer. So now we need to talk about what happens next. What do you want to happen next? I want to take you on a proper date. No security protocols, no threats, no complications. Just two people getting to know each other outside crisis situations. She smiled. I want to see if what we have survives in normal life. What if it doesn't? Then at least we tried. But Alexandra, I don't think that's going to be a problem. I've seen you at your worst and your most vulnerable. I know your darkest secrets. And I love you more now than I did before. We dated carefully at first, both of us aware that our relationship had been forged in crisis and needed to be tested in calmer waters. She wasn't my bodyguard anymore, having officially closed my case. We were just two women figuring out if crisis bonding could become something real and lasting. It could. It did. Without the threat looming over us, we discovered we actually liked each other beyond the intensity that had brought us together. She was thoughtful and surprisingly romantic, planning dates that catered to interests I'd mentioned in passing. I learned to relax around her, to be myself without the masks I wore professionally. 6 months after Victor's arrest, she moved into my apartment. A year after that, she proposed, getting down on one knee in the same spot where she'd first told me she loved me. Alexandra Pierce, you trusted me with your darkest secret, and I fell in love with the brave, complicated, brilliant woman underneath. You let me protect you, and then you protected my heart in return. I want to spend my life being worthy of that trust. Will you marry me? I said yes through tears, and we kissed in the same spot where we'd shared our first kiss months earlier. We got married 6 months later, small ceremony with close friends. During our vows, I talked about how she'd refused to let me buy my way out of trouble, how she demanded I face my past honestly, how that honesty had saved me. She talked about how love means seeing someone's worst and choosing them anyway, how protection isn't just physical but emotional and spiritual. Looking back now, I understand that Marina gave me something far more valuable than money could buy. She gave me freedom from fear, from the past, from the belief that I was irredeemable. She asked for my heart not as payment but as partnership, as equals building something together. People sometimes ask how we knew it was real love and not just crisis bonding or transactional gratitude. I tell them about the choice she made, to risk everything not for money but for me. I tell them about how she saw my darkest secret and loved me more, not less. I tell them that real love isn't about perfection, it's about seeing someone's shadows and standing beside them anyway. My bodyguard knew my darkest secret. I tried to pay her to keep it hidden. But what she wanted wasn't money or power or leverage. She wanted my honesty, my courage, and my heart. And giving her those things freed me in ways money never could. If you're still watching, thank you for being here. Subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment about facing hard truths. Have you ever had someone see your worst and love you anyway? I'd love to hear your stories. Because sometimes the people who see our darkness aren't meant to expose us. Sometimes they're meant to stand beside us while we find the light. Sometimes what looks like a transaction is actually the beginning of transformation. And sometimes the person protecting you physically ends up protecting your heart in ways you never expected. Marina was my bodyguard, then my savior, now my wife. She knew my darkest secret and didn't want my money. She wanted my heart, and giving it to her was the best decision I ever made.